Section 6.2. Okay, we're going to solve systems with substitution. Let's just warm up and review what substitution is. Okay, so for example here, it says y is equal to the number 2. So what I'm going to do is take 2 and I'm going to substitute it in place of that y variable. So what does the top equation become? 4x plus, instead of y, let's write the number 2, equals 1. Okay, so that's how you would substitute in a number for a variable. We could solve this, but we're just going to warm up here. Okay. Number 2, y is now equal to the quantity 2x. So let's go ahead and substitute in again. 2x is equal to a y. So if I substitute this into the first equation, let's put it in place of y. Let's put it in that spot right there. So what does the top equation become? It was 4x, okay, plus. Now instead of a y, we're going to write what y equals. Y is equal to 2x. So y, they're going to come out, and 2x is going to get substituted in place. Okay, substitute means to replace. Like on the basketball team, you have a substitution. The y player comes out, and somebody that's equivalent to him would go in. Or if your teacher's ever absent, you have a substitute. Okay. Number 3 is also substitution, but now y is equal to this whole quantity. So the entire quantity is equal to a y. All right, same idea, but it's just going to get a little larger. So that y variable is going to come out. And what does y equal? All that stuff. Okay, so here we go. We've got 4x plus, okay, this entire quantity is going in place of y. So y has to be removed. And what is equivalent to a y? 2x plus 7, which equals 1. Okay. Sometimes it's a good idea to put the entire quantity in parentheses, especially if there's a minus sign there. Okay, so that's what solving a system of equations with substitution means. Okay, so let's go ahead and get ready with our steps here. Okay, so how do you solve with substitution? First, we're going to isolate one variable if it's not done already. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here. In this system, okay, it's a system because it's two equations. The top equation is y equals x minus 4. So I already have y alone. Isolate means to get alone. Do we have one variable alone? Yes, I have a y equals. Okay, so that was already done. Okay, step 2. Substitute one expression into the other. Okay, so I'm going to take this quantity right here, x minus 4. That's equal to a y. So in the other equation, I'm going to replace this little y right there with that quantity. Okay, so this quantity is going to go in right there. So you take the first equation and you use it with the other equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and write this down. We have 4x plus, instead of the variable y, let's use this quantity right here, x minus 4, and the rest of the equation is equal to 1. Okay, now when you do this, when you substitute, you should only have one variable at this point. The y variable came out, and something with x's went in. Okay, now step 3 is to solve for one variable. Since we only have x's, we can go ahead and solve this. Let's go ahead and put our like terms together. 4x's plus another x is 5x minus 4 equals 1. Don't forget to write the entire equation. Okay, we're trying to isolate or solve for the x. So the first step would be to add or subtract the numbers. So let's go ahead and add 4 to both sides. Okay, so now we have 5x equals 5. We're almost there. All we have to do is divide both sides by 5, and x equals 1. Okay, so we solve for one variable. Now that's not enough because in this chapter, remember, the solution to a system is two numbers. We have to find an x number and a y number. Okay. Use the value found in step 3. So we're going to use this number to solve for the other variable. Okay, the other variable. So we have the value for x, we need to find the value for y. Okay, and the easiest place to do that was with whatever you circled up here. Okay, so we're going to take this number, we're going to plug it in right up there. So y equals x minus 4, but we know the x number is 1, so let's use that to our advantage. 1 minus 4, y equals negative 3. Y equals negative 3. Okay, so now we're able to state the solution. Okay, and this is very important, this entire chapter, that you write the solution the right way. Is the solution 1 or is it negative 3? Well, the solution is the point with both of them together as a set. And you have to put the right number here. The x number goes first, and then the y number goes second. Okay, this is the solution. That's exactly how you have to write your answer. With parentheses as a point, because they make a set. They go together. Okay, and then it says check your answer. Okay, is this the right solution? I definitely want to get all these problems correct, so I have to make sure that this is correct. Does this solution work in the system? So the first one is, let's check the top. Let's check equation number 1. Give me a y number. Negative 3. Does that equal? Give me an x number. 1 minus 4. Does that work? Negative 3. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Okay, it checks in the top equation. That's not it. You can't stop. Okay, we also have to check the second equation. If it doesn't work in the second one, that's not the right solution for my system. All right, let's check 4 times the x number. What's the x number? 1 plus the y number. What's the y number? I think it's negative 3. Does that equal 1? 4 times 1. 4. 4 minus 3. Does that equal to 1? Yes, it does. It works. It works in both of the equations. That is definitely the solution to this system. Okay, correct. It checks. I'm just going to put, I checked it. I got an A. All right, let's do some more. Let's solve by substitution. Okay, and there's easier ways and harder ways to do this. Okay, step 1. What was it? Isolate one variable. Okay, so you got to get one of the letters alone. Let's spend some time deciding what would be the easiest one to do. Okay, this x is not alone. This y is not even alone because he's got a 2. Okay, and this y is alone. So the easiest way to do this problem would be to say y equals 3x plus 2. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and circle that quantity. You already have a variable alone. That would be the easiest way to do this problem. You could get one of these other letters alone, but that would just be more work. Not wrong, okay, just maybe a little harder. All right, what was step 2? Substitute this expression into the other one. Okay, so I'm finding these directions over here. Substitute one expression into the other one. All right, so this quantity came from equation 1. This has to go into equation 2. And where is it going to go? It's going to go right there in the y spot. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that down. X plus 2. And now I need to write down this quantity for y. When I say the word quantity, do you know what we have to use here for all this stuff? Yes, we have to use parentheses. 3x plus 2. Very important that that entire quantity gets multiplied by 2. Okay, so whatever you circle, see how there's already some parentheses indicated? Put that there. Don't forget to write the rest of the equation. Equals 11. This should still be an equation with an equal sign. And remember, after you replace the y, the only letter you should have is x. Excellent. Okay, now we have to solve. What do we do with the 2 like that? Distribute it in. X plus 2 times 3 is 6x plus 2 times 2 is 4 equals 11. Let's put like terms together. 7x plus 4 equals 11. Let's go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. 7x equals 7, and when I divide by 7, I think the x value is a 1. Okay, are we done? No, we're only halfway done. Remember, when you solve a system, you have to find two values. Okay, so we're only halfway done. If you want, you can write your solution down so far as 1 comma something. I found the x number. Now we have to find the y number. The easiest place to do that is what you circled up here. This is the easiest place. You can take the 1 number and plug it in anywhere you want for x. But this is the easiest place. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw a little squiggle. This is the easiest place to solve for y. Y equals 3 times the x number. The x number is 1. 3 times 1 plus 2. So y is equal to 5. Y is equal to 5. So I think that the answer is 1 comma 5. Now, I definitely want to get an A on this test, so I think I'm going to check. I'm going to check to make sure that it works. It has to work in both of the equations. Okay, so equation number 1. Give me a y number. I think the y number is 5 equals 3 times the x number, which is 1 plus 2. Is this true? Does this come out to be 5 equals 5? Yes, it does. Check. Okay. Number 2. Let's try the second equation. Give me an x number. 1 plus 2 times the y number. 2 times 5. Does that equal 11? See, does 1 plus 10 equal 11? Check. It works. Okay, so this solution is good. Sometimes if you make a little tiny mistake here, maybe with distributing, this x becomes wrong, which affects that y, which means it's not going to work. Okay, so there's a great way to make sure that all your steps worked out since we're using it over and over again. Okay, let's do another one. Step 1 is to get one of your variables alone. Which variable seems like it might be the easiest to isolate? That y is not alone. This 2x is certainly not alone. Oh, look at this. X equals. X is already isolated. So that would be the easiest thing to do. Right here, x equals this stuff. All right, so if you can find a variable that's already isolated, go with it. All right, and then what do we do with that? This quantity represents x. So this equation has to go into the top equation. It's different than the other problem. So we're going to take this quantity from equation 2 and plug it into equation 1. Okay? It doesn't matter how it works as long as one equation goes into the other. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Y minus 2. Now instead of x, what are we going to replace x with? This whole quantity. X is equal to this stuff. Remember what we have to use though? We have to use some parentheses because that's the entire quantity for x. All right, good. We did y minus 2. We replaced x with all that stuff. Let's finish the rest of the equation. Equals negative 3. Remember, after you replace or substitute, you should be down to one variable. All y's. I can work with this. All right, let's go ahead and distribute. What are you distributing here? This is a negative 2. This is a negative 2. Some people like to say adding the opposite. It's definitely a negative 2. So a negative times a negative is positive. 2 times 3, 6y. A negative times a positive is a negative 10 or minus 10. Okay, the rest of the steps are pretty similar to before. Let's add our like terms. 7y minus 10 equals negative 3. Let's go ahead and add 10 to both sides. 7y equals 7. Divide both sides by 7. I think y is equal to a 1. So I'm going to go ahead and write the first part of my solution. I've already found one of the variables. And where am I going to put the 1? Be very careful. It's got to go in the y spot. But we're not done. We're only halfway done. Halfway done. Remember, the easiest place to go ahead and substitute the first part that you find? The easiest place is to put it in the stuff that you circled originally. That's the easiest place right there. I'm going to replace that y number with a 1. So let's go x equals -3. And instead of a y, let's put a 1 plus 5. And this should allow us to find the x value. And it's already x equals. You could also put the 1 right here if you want, but then you'd have to do a couple more steps. All right, so x is equal to -3 plus 5. I think x is equal to a 2. I think I found the solution, 2 comma 1. Okay, but we can go ahead and check. Let's go ahead and check to make sure that it definitely works in both of the equations. So equation number 1. Let's see if the numbers 2 comma 1 make this equation true. Give me a y. 1 minus 2 times the x number, which is 2. Does that equal to -3? 1 minus 4 does equal -3. Yep, it works. Number 2. The x number is 2 equals -3 times the y number. The y number is 1 plus 5. Does that work? Does 2 equal -3 plus 5? I believe it does. Some people get very good with checking just using their calculator or just checking by looking at it to make sure it works. Some people like to write the checking down. Okay, early on I think we're going to require that you show me the checking because we all want to get nice correct answers and high scores. All right, number 3. Almost done, guys. We're going to go ahead and isolate a variable. But I want to, do this as smart as possible. I don't want to do extra work. Which variable is alone? Well, none of them. They all have some terms. Is there any variable that has the coefficient of 1? Okay, so I think that the easiest variable to isolate would be this 1x because he already doesn't have a number by him. He has no coefficient. The coefficient is 1. So that would be the easiest one. So let's go ahead and write this first equation down. And the way that I would isolate x would be to simply get rid of the -2y. If I add 2y to the left, I have to add 2y to the right. So x is equal to 2y minus 6. Okay, so that did take us a little bit of work to isolate one of the variables, okay? But this was the easiest variable to isolate. Okay, so I've got x equals. That came from the top equation. So if you use the top equation to isolate a variable, this quantity needs to go into the bottom equation. This quantity needs to go right in there and replace the x. Needs to replace the x. Okay, so here we go. 4 times x. But x is that quantity, 2y minus 6. Are you getting used to putting parentheses around the quantities? That's going to happen a lot. You're probably going to get really used to that. Plus 6y equals 4. All right, here we go. Let's distribute the 4. 8y minus 24 plus 6y equals 4. Let's go ahead and add our like terms. 8y plus 6y is 14y minus 24 equals 4. Let's add 24 to both sides. 14y equals 28 and y equals 2. Okay, so in terms of my solution, I am halfway there. Which half did we find, the x or the y? We found the y number, okay, but we need to find the x number. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and replace y with the number 2. Now, you are technically allowed to go anywhere you want. You could put the y number there or there, but this is always the easiest place. Whatever you circle, x equals, okay, x is equal to this number. If I just replace 2 for the y. Okay, so we're going to put that in right there. X equals 2. Give me a y number. 2 minus 6. I always feel a little bit like a cheerleader when we do this section. 2 times 2 is 4 minus 6. X is equal to negative 2. Negative 2. And remember, you can check this simply with your calculator. If you wanted to type these numbers in for the X and the Y, they both should work. Okay, and I highly recommend checking. All right, last one. Let's go ahead and get one of these variables alone. It looks like that's not the easiest one. We've got X or Y or X. Let's see, since X has a negative sign, that maybe wouldn't be the easiest to get alone. Try to find a positive one. It doesn't matter if you get Y alone or X alone. They're both pretty easy here. Maybe I'll solve for the top equation. Maybe I'll get Y alone. Y minus X equals negative 3. A couple ways you can do this. You could just switch sides and switch signs and say a negative X becomes a positive X, or you can do the work on the paper. Y equals positive X minus 3. Okay, step 1 was to isolate one of the variables, get one of them alone. And we got Y alone. Okay, I'm going to go and circle that. That came from the top equation. So this has to get substituted into the bottom equation. Okay, don't put the top into the top. You have to put the top equation into the bottom equation. You have to combine the two of them. You could take the bottom and put it into the top, okay, but you got to use one with the other. X plus 2 times the Y quantity. Good job using parentheses. Don't forget to finish equals negative 6. You need to finish the equation, otherwise it won't work. Let's distribute the 2. 2x minus 6 equals negative 6. I'm really curious to see how many people can finish this, okay? And when I see you next, I want to check your solution to see if you got it, okay? All right, good luck, everybody. Keep going. Finish this problem, please. I can't wait to see it.